Welcome, fellow Americans. This is your daily Universal News Report.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Harold Smith.
And I'm Earl Adams.
Today we'll be covering all the news that you missed, from progressivism to the daily weather report. We've got it all.
To start it off, why don't we switch to our interview with Jacob Reeves. Pauline, take it away.
Hi, I'm Pauline, and here today I'm interviewing Jacob Reese. Reese, we have a few questions for you today. Our first one is, how do you think people would describe you?
I would believe that people would knew me as and would describe me as a social reformer.
What are your occupations?
My occupations included being a muckraking journalist, meaning that I would write about the corrupt leaders and institutions, and my other occupation is I did a social documentary photographer.
Very nice. How was your early life?
In my early life, I immigrated here to New York at the age of 21 with only $40 in my pocket with donations from my friends. And as soon as I got here, I spent $20 on a revolver to protect me from other people and animals. And I managed to find a job 5 days later at as a carpenter at Brady's Bend Ironworks.
How interesting. Thank you for your time.
What a great man, writing articles for the betterment of society. Doesn't get better than that, does it, Earl?
No, it does not.
Alright, folks, for those of you looking forward to going outside today, we have some good news for you.
The weather's looking beautiful today on this early March afternoon with a high of 75 and a low of 62. Why don't you get out there and have some fun? Now back to our talk of progressivism.
Hello, I'm Ruth, and I'm here with you today with the sports news. During last night's game against the Pittsburgh Pirates and the New York Giants took a sudden turn when the Pittsburgh pitcher, Hal Clark, throws a curveball and dislocates his elbow. He had to be transported to the hospital to reduce the dislocation. And we are now waiting to hear further information about the injury. Thanks for tuning in with the sports news.
Thanks, Earl. As you all know very well, progressivism became a very popular idea because of the need to fix social and economic issues created by industrialization.
Wait a minute. What type of social and economic issues are we talking about here?
Glad you asked. People during this time agreed that poverty, crime, and greed could be solved by giving all people education. As far as the economy goes, it's been thriving since the government helped to overthrow monopolies and allowed business competition.
Wow. You know what's become a real big issue, Harold? Civil rights. You have to admit, it's become a real issue of segregation, and it's something we can't get around. African Americans are denied equality in healthcare, education, job opportunities, and housing. I can't think of a better time for change than now.
Well, if it's change you seek, then it's change you'll receive. African American reformers Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois, although at times in disagreement, are both fighting for the same goal: pushing fellow Americans for equality, whether it be through self-sufficiency and ignoring discrimination, or the constantly pushing for the fight of racial equality.
Wow. Well, I think you about summed up how the progressive era came to be. Thank you for that beautiful insight.
Of course, it is our job as news reporters to inform the people about the news, and even though this was in the past, it's still affecting the present and will continue to affect our futures.
Hold on. I'm just now getting word of breaking news. Our news reporter, Pauline, is out by the White House during what we believe to be one of the biggest women's protests.
Thank you, Earl and Harold. Today marks another monumental movement in the suffragette history. Women's rights activists are stationed outside the White House as we speak, protesting for their right to vote. We have some of the most influential women in the progressive movement with us today, including Alice Paul. Let's hear what she has to say. Ms. Paul, do you have any words for President Wilson?
Yes, if we're allowed to go to jail like men, why can't we vote like men?
You couldn't have heard it said any better anywhere else, folks. These ladies are putting in the effort to end a century of protest. You are sure to turn heads and change the nation's ideals. We also have Carrie Chapman Hatt with us today, leader of the National American Women's Suffrage Association and the founder of the League of Women's Voters and the Alliance of Women. What do you have to say about today's gathering?
In all the movements I've been a part of, I've never felt closer to my goal than I do now.
You heard that right, ladies and gentlemen. Coming straight from the leaders of the women's rights movement, we are nearing the end. Once again, Pauline reporting live on the women's protests at the White House.
We
Back to
want
you.
votes! We want votes! We want votes!
George Eastman invented the Kodak camera. to help make photography accessible to the public. It consisted of a box camera with 100 exposures. Yes, 100 exposures. The camera captures an exact moment. It can't get better than that. It is made small for consumers, so there won't be a hassle trying to carry them around. The Kodak camera can be useful for newspapers and more. The Kodak camera is for sale at your local photo stock dealers. Get yours today. You press the button, we do the rest.
Wow, what an event going on there. You know what that reminds me of, Harold? Probably the most important movement in the progressive era, which is indeed women's suffrage. Such amazing things these independent women are accomplishing recently, as we have seen most have been pushing the right to vote.
You are absolutely correct. You know, I heard that one lead reformer in those marches, Alice Paul, has been in and out of jail. The amount of support these women are gathering is a sight to see. Many of them are pushing for separate but valid areas of reform.
If Carrie Chapman Catt and Florence Kelley aren't household names by now, then get to know them. Florence Kelley, for instance, founded National Consumers League and the WTUL. Most would say crucial organizations that support the fight of women's suffrage. Carrie Chapman Catt, who became the NAWSA president, is a lead supporter in the 19th Amendment.
Oh, what's that? Oh, we're just now receiving word that the 19th Amendment was passed within minutes of our live report from Pauline. Now, women are officially allowed to vote.
Wow, that's amazing. More on the president who allowed for this to be passed. Here we have our analytical commentary. Take it away, Robert Hung.
So today we're going to be talking about the most progressive president in our opinion, which will be Roosevelt. He was widely popular because of his hero status following the Spanish-American War and took presidency after the assassination of William McKinley. He has a square deal and it addresses the three major problems of our era, and the three C's are control of corporations, consumer protections, and to conserve the economy. He was the first president to side with labor unions, and during the strike of the coal mines, he sided with them and said that if they will not comply with the demands of the workers, they will control it with military force. He also encouraged Congress to pass the Department of Commerce and Labor, and this cabinet level apartment, which is a federal apartment, is designed to monitor corporations and ensure that they engage in fair business ethics. And after much pressure from Roosevelt, Congress agreed to pass the Meat Inspection Act and the Pure Food and Drug Act of 1986, which gives people the right to inspect food and make sure that all the food that's going around is safe. And with Roosevelt's urging, Congress passed the New Lands Act, which allowed the federal government to sell lands in the arid desert western states and devote the proceeds to irrigation projects. And landowners would then repay off the irrigation costs from the proceeds they receive from their newly fertile land. So it's like an ecosystem plan. It helps revitalize the ecosystems. And he emerged as an individual from a unique background at a unique time following the assassination of William McKinley, and he worked hard to expose the corruption and mismanagement of corporations and urged the government to become more responsive to the people and more proactive. And Taft, his subject, the one that he wanted to replace him in the Republican Party, he failed to get the public on his side and ended up creating a split in the Republican Party and aggravated the public when he fired Pinchot for speaking up. And Wilson was the second Democratic president since 1861, and he achieved this goal successfully, but not as well as Roosevelt did.
Wow, very well spoke. I couldn't have said it better myself. I hope all of you today have learned a little something about the progressive era, and I hope we have put a little sparkle in your universe.
Now go out and enjoy the beautiful weather, and we'll see you tomorrow. This is Harold Smith.
And I'm Earl Adams.
From
From here at Universal News, you stay classy, Universe.